Hi guys, today I just want to do a little bit on background, talk about a little bit about the process of doing my backgrounds. I'm not going to do the whole painting, but kind of give you an idea of how I go about doing some of my paintings. So today I'm doing, it's a field of poppies, and I am using a photo reference. It is a free stock photo. So that's what I'm working from. You can see it in the background up there. It may disappear off my phone at some point. But I'm just going to talk about a little bit about the process of doing the background, the colors that I'm using today. So let's begin. My palette is a little messy already because I have started. Just a little messy. So I have a variety of cadmium yellows, lights, deep hues, some orange hues. I have some cadmium reds. I have a crimson. I have titanium white, Naples yellow, a burnt umber, a burnt sienna, a raw sienna. I am using also a phthalo blue, a sap green. I do believe that is it. All right, so I have started my painting. I was doing a little bit of background, and then I said, oh, you know what, maybe I'll do a video and just show them a little bit how I start the process in the background. So hopefully you can see this. I don't want you to see me, I want you to see it. So let's begin here. And I have a variety of brushes. So I have some flats. I have 1/2 inch flats, 1/4 inch flats. I have some filberts. The filberts are rounded along the top. I have some mop brushes. That's just for softening out my backgrounds and edges. I do have a ruler as well today. Why? Because I'm doing such a large scale and kind of get an idea, you know, even sides and finding my center and so forth. So this photograph here, as you can see up here, there's one large poppy here, and the rest are all out of focus. So some people would call it photorealism, if I'm painting from a photo. So the background is a little bit muted. You know, you really can't see the edges. The focus is this one big poppy here. So to create all this softness here, it's actually a lot more work than you actually think it is, you know. So it requires a lot of blending techniques, using filberts and mops, brushes. So I'm going to start by going into some cadmium yellow light, and I'm just going to kind of give that a little bit of a wash from, I figure this big poppy comes somewhere in the center here, so I'm going to kind of come down like that. And then from here down, you can kind of see some yellow values in there. That brush is a little too soft. I kind of like my worn out brushes. So this one here is worn out. It's a flat. It's a 1/2 inch flat. But it's really old, fuzzy. As you can see, there's some hairs coming out of it. So I'm going to give somewhat of a yellow wash here. And I can kind of shape out my main subject here, which is the big poppy here. Just throwing in some yellow in there. It's almost like scrubbing the canvas. So I'm doing a wash. And then there's different ways you can do this. You know, you can put some paint on there with some thinner and use a cloth. Or you can do it with a brush. I like to do the brush only because it allows me to kind of get into all those creases of the canvas. There we go. going to work on the bottom part of this for a little bit. I hope the lighting is okay. It's a little bit later in the evening. Alrighty. Now that I got that yellow in there, I can actually kind of come in here and cut around and block out the shape of the big poppy. Yeah, that kind of lets me know where the big poppy is. All right. And then up here as well, in reference to this photograph here, this petal here lines up with that top flower. So I kind of want to go right in there like that and cut out and shape out this a little bit. And I may have to come down a little bit there. There we go. And there's a slight little curve there. I'm going to cut back out that way. I may have gone a little bit too far there. That's okay. There we go. Now I do have a cloth, and that's only because I want to clean up some areas there. That kind of comes up a little bit higher. I actually think this is all a little too high, but yeah. Okay. And then I'm going to take a little bit of this phthalo glue. I'm going to throw some right in there. Not shaping that back out there. So I did go a little bit too high. So shape that back out. There we go. That's a little better. Yeah, we need a little more paint there. A little bit more phthalo. Alrighty. I am wearing gloves because I'm using a lot of cadmiums, and cadmiums are very toxic. So there's some of that phthalo right in there. There's probably some cerulean in here too, but we'll keep it simple. Now there are a couple of little orange flowers in the background, as you can see there, and I can take those back out with a cloth. I'm not too worried about that. I'm more concerned about getting some paint on this canvas. It's really dry in my working space today, so you'd say, oh, well, I'm working in oil, shouldn't be too dry. Well, it still has an effect on the paint when the air is dry. Alright, now I'm going to get a little bit of thinner. I'm going to put it on my cloth, and I'm just going to kind of go across from there where I think that orange one might be, maybe around there. And they're not too big, they're rather small. maybe around there. It's somewhat of the same shape, you know. All right. And then there's an orange space right there. And that one's going to be orange as well. Now we can try to start getting some greens down the bottom here. Let's see. That really should have been dropped down a little bit more, so I'm going to kind of cut that way. There we go. And I'm using the sap green, so I'm not kind of just like, it's almost like scrubbing the canvas right now. I don't really want to see my brush strokes yet. Just laying in some paint. And as you can see, I'm just doing this little area up here. It's rather small, I know. But big canvas, small reference. Sorry, guys. Okay. I'm going to leave this little area over here open. This is where the stem is. For that large poppy. I don't want to close it in too soon. So. There you go. It's a little bit better and brighter. All right. Now there's a large area here as well that has lots of greens. So this whole area in here is kind of all green. So I'll throw some sap right in there. And obviously today you're not going to see the finished product, but I will be having an exhibit in December 27th through February 4th, and that's going to be at the Narrow Center for the Arts, 16 Anilawn Street in Fall River, Massachusetts. Please, stop by and see the paintings. There's 2 galleries there. So there's always usually a couple of exhibits going on at the same time. And lots of artists on the 2nd floor. So always be sure to stop in and say hello to the artists that are on the 2nd floor as well. That's where my studio is. Okay. I need a little bit more cadmium yellow. And I'm going to use a little bit of lemon yellow. Not much, just a little. My messy little palette here. And it is messy today. She's not that messy. So I'm going to throw in some cadmium yellow in here. And I know I did a wash of the cadmium yellow underneath, but I want it to be a little bit more intense right here. So here we have it. A little more intense right there. We actually see some phthalo greens in there as well. But I'm not going to get into that color yet. It's rather strong. Just want to put a lot of my sap green in here first. I know it doesn't look like much, but it takes a lot of blending and building up on layers. It's thick over thin. That's how the masters worked. I'm far from being a master, but you definitely learn from the masters. So you start off with thin layers and then build upon that. I'm gonna add a little bit more of the yellow in here, cadmium yellow. a little bit of opacity here, so I'm going to take just a tad bit. And you can use zinc white, a mixing white, or you can use the titanium. I tend to just go in with the titanium, you know. I just want a little bit of opacity here. You gotta go easy. Like I said, I don't like to use white right away, but when you're dealing with a background that has a lot of the same color, it's important to have a little bit of opacity to build upon. Alright, now I'm going to take a little bit of that phthalo green. It's such a beautiful color green. I don't know if you can see that or not, but it's rather difficult to see. And we're just going to kind of throw a little bit right underneath here and over in here. There's some variations in color there. Maybe there's some in here. See a little bit down in there. Looks like there might be pots, the stems. The stems from the poppies have a little bit of this phthalo green in it, so I'll throw some of that in. Try to keep those edges soft, even though it doesn't look like much. You know, it's very tricky to come back to it afterward. So keep those edges nice and soft. Don't quite have that shape of that flower quite yet, so cut that down just a little there. Yeah, I think that's a little better. This still isn't quite right up here, but I can live with it. That poppy comes, that large poppy comes almost right to the center of my canvas. I need a little bit more of a sap green up here as well. And I'm just blocking out where my large poppy is. Making sure I get all those edges nice and smooth, softened out. Here, there's a little bit of, let's just throw some nice deep cadmium. It's a cadmium light red. Looks dark. Orange, right in there. Ooh, some pretty strong colors. you know, you start seeing little things that you might be off on proportion-wise. So I'm going to fill that in a little bit of green here. So I'll go right in there and just block that out just a little bit. I can go back and fix that edge, but keep it soft, like I said. So brush it out, keep it soft. There we go. Alright. Soften that edge out well. I'll come back with that later. I'm trying to paint in the direction in which you see the petals, you know? Alright, let's get a nice clean brush here. I'm going to get another half-inch flat. Make sure it's nice and clean. As you can see, this is a nice chiseled edge. That's it. And I am just going to go in there with some cadmium red, and I'm going to cut out this line somewhat along there. This is just going to help me kind of distinguish where I'm going with this. Maybe some, oh, there we go. Lost my reference. Back in business. All right. And there's some deep red in there. And I'm just throwing in the color where I see it. I'm thinking of, you know, thinking a little bit about shape at the same time. Okay. I haven't used that paint in a while. It's a little mucky. I'm just using the cloth to kind of cut around the shapes a little bit. Soften it out. Like I said, that paint was a little bit mucky, so. Sometimes the oils dry out. They get tacky. That's the safflower that's inside the paint. It does that. Safflower oil. Gets tacky. Alright. That's pretty much where the petals are. With that. So I'm pretty happy with the outline. I can build up a little bit more here and there if I choose to around the edges and block it in. I go in here like this with a little bit of the sap green. I can kind of cut this in just a little bit more because it really needs to be. Right in there. Block that shape out just a little bit. We can fix that up later. This is going to come up a little bit higher. Yeah. That needs a little bit of opacity too there. So I'm just going to throw a little bit of the white right in there. There we go. Beauteous. A little bit of opacity right along this edge here. And we need a little more sap green. That's one of my favorite colors. I loved it so much that I had so much sap green in my living room at one point. I finally just had to say, okay, time for a new color. I'm just getting too attached to green all the time. All right. And now my living room is blue. Blues and browns. Build up a little bit more of around the edges here. You know, don't be cheap with the paint. All right. That looks pretty good. I'm happy with that over there. And now I'm going to try to build up a little bit over here. Let's see. Right in there like that. We need a little bit of lemon yellow. Doesn't look like much, right, guys? Like a bunch of paint splattered on the canvas. But it is a process. Yeah. Art is in the process. That's how I feel. You know, whether it's impressionism, realism, abstract. It's all about the process. Okay, that brush is just too soft for me. I find the softer the brush, the less control you have. And I'm trying to look at this little green shape here that's blocking in the flower. So I'm just kind of getting some sap green build up right in here like this. And I'm just looking at the shape somewhat of where this sap green area is. I'm just throwing it in there. If I see it's darker in some areas, you know, we can add a little bit of blue to it. You know, maybe I'll take a little bit of that phthalo blue. Why not? All right, make it cohesive. What do I mean by that? I mean, if you use the same colors throughout your painting, the more cohesive it is. So, if I see some dark green, I could take my sap green and just add a little bit of that phthalo blue that I was using for the sky and mix it in with the green there, just to get a little bit more depth in my dark areas. And I'm going to come way over here, so throw a little bit of darkness right in there. And then over here as well, I see some right in there, so taking some of that over there and up in here as well. Okay. There's a little bit of the phthalo green down in here, so I'm just going to go in there, throw that beautiful phthalo green. Such a lovely color, so vibrant. It's yummy. Reminds me of retro colors. If I was living in the 70s, I'd see this color a lot. scene. Once again, I'm just keeping these edges soft. Okay. I'm going to take this little mop brush over here and try to soften these areas up. You know, if you see the shape of something, try to use the mop brush in the direction of the shape. You know, if something's rounded, go. And I barely touch the canvas too. So and it's a dry mop brush. So you're just dragging the paint around, softening it up. And it does wonders. It does such a great blending of colors. If you're trying to like take something that's out of focus, you're trying to paint something that's out of focus, this is definitely the trick you want to use. So as you can see, I'm just doing this little area down here, down on the bottom. It's a little area that's down on the bottom right in here. And that's what I'm doing right there. Right now it's just a very thin layer of paint on the bottom here. And I can build upon that. Like I said, thick over, it's thick over thin. So you want to build up a little bit more with each layer of paint. I know it doesn't look like much, but I'm really happy with how this just blended very nicely. What I'm not happy with is that it's time to get some new brushes because they're falling apart. That's the thing about these mop brushes. The little mop brushes tend to fall apart. You got to kind of crimp the ends over here with the pliers sometimes and get it nice and tight again because the hairs just start falling out. And I don't like finding hairs on my canvas. That doesn't bother some people, some artists are like, oh, more texture the better. They'll just leave the bristles right in there in the canvas. That drives me nuts. Alright. So I got some nice blending there. Come over here and soften this edge out of here. Once again, like I said, I'm going in the direction in which I see the motion of the flowers or the stems. I'm just going with the flow, Do all the work. Alright. So I got that little area nice and softened out, and I need to build up a little bit more over here, so I need some more cadmium yellow. And I'm going to put some more cadmium yellow right along here like this. It's not enough paint. I guess I was a little too cheap. So can't get good blending if you don't have paint on the canvas. So make sure you... Oh, and down here we have a little bit of white as well. So I'm going to put a little bit of titanium right down in there. We'll need some opacity there. Beautiful. Okay. A little bit more yellow. And I see a little bit of that. There you go, green, that direction. All right. So I've been doing these paintings, and I was fortunate enough to receive a grant from the Florida Cultural Council. It's a division of the Massachusetts Cultural Council, and the series is Backyard Birds and Blooms. And this is a sequel to another grant that I had received for doing videos on backyard birds and blooms. Some have, birds and blooms, and some are just birds, and some are just blooms. And I think this one, I could add a a bird to this one, but I don't think I want to. This is such a beautiful, beautiful poppy that I want to lose the focus of that. Right, so now I got some paint on here. I'm going to just kind of soften this out a bit. Just want to add a little bit more of the sap green right in here. Thinking about that shape that's up there. And then I'm just going to soften this out. And I'm going to go from like the lightest color of the yellow in there and then blend it and push it, you know. I'm pushing it into that sap green. Thinking about the direction. And then I'm going to go back down here. Soften it. I'm pulling upward. You know, a little bit of pushing and pulling there and moving some stuff forward and some stuff backward into the background. Meanwhile, softening it up the paint as well. I don't want any sharp edges. I just want it all kind of muted a little bit here. Just fading into the background. All right. I think that's some nice blending there. And I'm probably going to cut around this now because there's a couple of poppies over here as well. So I'm just going to cut around this here. And I'm just thinking about the shape that's up there and there. And it kind of comes down like this. And then some orange. There's a poppy right in there. So in that background there. So yeah. Alright. A little bit more yellow than I need right there. And then this here, this needs to come just here, down there, like so, and like that. Beautiful. Okay. In here, there's going to be some orange, so it's tricky because you don't want to have any green on there with that orange. So here we go, taking out some of that yellow, because if I put the orange and I start putting the orange there with the green on there, it's going to get really muddy and give it a real muddy color. So I have to take out some of that yellow. All right. So now we're going to get into some of those orange colors in there. A lot of them are yellow and cadmium red. However, if I mix it with that green, it's going to be really murky, kind of swampy. So let's get some cadmium orange. And right around this edge here, like this. I just want just a small little there around the edges. And I'm taking some of that cadmium red light and putting it right in there. Ooh, isn't that strong color? Wow. Down there. So remember, if you want to see the final products, you'll have to come to my exhibit at the Narrow Center for the Arts in December. Once again, that date is going to be December 27th through February 4th. And you can find that in 16 Anawan Street in Fall River, Massachusetts, in the Narrow Center for the Arts. Maybe a little bit more cadmium yellow. on me. A little bit of the sniffles today. I apologize for that. This is a cadmium yellow medium. And let's see, we're going to throw some of that right in here, like so. And then cadmium yellow, the light yellow, in here. Oof, that red is strong. Keep those edges nice and soft. If you find there's too much red like I do, just go in there and take some of that right out of there. Now, cloth is saturated with thinner right now. My gloves are too big. Need some smaller gloves. All right. Some of that orange right down there, and that's such a beautiful color. I really love that color. All right. And I'm going to take that mop brush, dry it to the best of my ability because I had to get that green off of there. And I'm just going to go in there and just soften out and get some good blending from the center outward. Just like so. Making sure all my edges are soft. A stubborn little bristle. All these videos you'll be able to find when they're all done. You'll be able to find them on Facebook at Studio Incognito on my Facebook page. And on Facebook, you can find me as Vanya Naversa Viveris. And then my Facebook page is Studio Incognito. I have a couple of pages. One specifically for pet portraits. And then another one of varied subject matter. Alright. It's really strong. That looks good there. And I'm going to kind of just wipe out this area here. The stem is going to be for that large poppy there. And then along this edge here. Ooh. That's my foot. There we go. Alright. more sap green right up in here like this. Some yellow, cadmium yellow. Need some of that phthalo green. Yeah. I'll tell you, it's very difficult to keep these edges very soft and not want to do detail, especially after I do birds. You do birds, it's all about detail, you know, with me anyway. So when I do these, it's like, I'm out of my comfort zone. A little bit more of that phthalo green right in here. And titanium white. There we go. Not too much. Make it muddy. So this video is basically just to kind of give you an idea of the process that I do for the background. You know, it's not going to look like much to you, but it's more about teaching you the techniques, building layers, keeping the edges soft, making things out of focus. Yeah. I really like what we got so far here. Okay. Alright. I see a little bit of a warm color down here, so I'm going to throw a little bit of this burnt sienna right down in here. I'll warm things up a little bit. And then I see some burnt umber right along in here, like so. And that's going to be a leaf. It's a top part of a leaf, I believe. Might even be a leaf from a tulip. I don't know. Not quite sure if this might be tulips. They look like poppies, but who knows, maybe there's tulips there too. Right? Doesn't have to be just a field of poppies. Could be a field of poppies and tulips. Now I'm going to take some of the raw umber. Just a nice dark color. Throw some right in here. This brush is terrible. It's all frayed. Good for something and bad for others. Alright. So, take a little bit of this cadmium yellow. I'm going to kind of go right from the top here, like so. Yeah. And then cut it right back in there like that. Take a better brush for frying a chisel and get some of this phthalo green and go right along the edge here, like so. That. And I'm going to take some of that phthalo blue, throw that right in there like that. Ooh, it's going to be a beautiful color. A little bit more of that phthalo blue. There we go. I'm going to throw some of that right in here as well. I put some before, but we need just a little bit more paint. Be a little bit more generous. And take a little bit more of this phthalo green and go right along that edge there where I had that burnt umber. this edge here. Take some, actually I want some lemon yellow. Lemon yellow's a little bit cooler. That's what I want. A little bit cooler there. So let's take some of that out and throw some lemon yellow right in here. A little bit of white, some opacity. There we go. And I'm going to turn this a little bit more for you. There we go. That's a little bit. You know, my arm's going to be in the way for some things. Try my best here. I don't want to be in your way, but unfortunately, some of this is beyond my control. All right, now we'll take some of this phthalo blue right up in here, like so. Start building up. I want this to be a little bit darker down in here, so I'm not going to lighten that up too much yet. Kind of gives you an idea of where the blue is, though. Where that sky is meeting top edges of the flowers and leaves. Let's trim that a little bit. Okay. Hopefully the lighting is good. It's always hard to tell when you're doing a video if the lighting is good or not. Yeah, so I'm always better off sometimes with professional lamps, which I've used in the past, but don't have them accessible today. All right, now I'm going to take a soft filbert, and let's see. Oh, not so soft. We need a soft one. And this is a filbert, and it's nice and soft, and it's I'm just going to use it to kind of pull and blend those colors that are in that leaf that's you can see the top part of. There we go. Keep those edges soft. All right. I'll push that right along that edge there. There we go. Soften that out. That looks good so far. I'm just going in there and just going little areas there and softening that out. Especially when you're working on a painting, don't anticipate finishing the painting during that particular time. You want to make sure you get all the edges soft so that you can come back to it and having to scrape out annoying little edges that are getting in the way. do like a little bit of texture here and there. But that's usually, I usually do that right toward the end of a painting. I'll get some texture in there, you know. I tend to do that a lot with birds. A little bit of texture on little feathers. Those little fluffy underneath feathers. Down feathers. Like I said, we weren't finishing a painting, but I wanted to kind of give you an idea of how I go about doing the background and out of focus. I'm going to take that nice lovely mop brush that I had here. It's not so dry anymore, but still of good use. And going back, and I'm just pulling from the top down. They work so much better when they're dry. There we go. Just mute that right out. There we go. All right. Now there are some things that I see that I want to fix, and it's really right along this here. I see this leaf here, so I'm going to go in here and cut that shape out like that. Because that's a little bit larger. And a little bit more rounded. Right along this edge here, like that. And then I'm going to take some of this burnt umber and right along the edge there, like so. I'm going to come in here like that. There. And I want some opacity there, but I don't want any white, so I'm going to use a little bit of the Naples yellow. It's very opaque, so if I throw just a little bit of that Naples yellow right in there, it's going to give me a nice color there. That's my timer, just to remind me that an hour has passed. So, once again, this was just so that you could see a little bit about my process and how I go about doing a background, working from a photo reference, and keeping the integrity of the photo. The subject matter is a poppy, the large one here, and everything else is kind of muted in the background, and this one is going to be the only one that's going to be in focus. And if you want to see the final product, you'll just have to come visit the Narrow Center for the Arts on 16 Anawan Street, Fall River, Massachusetts, to see the exhibit, which will be, the paintings will be on display from these videos, these demos, from December 27th to February 4th. And should you have any questions, you can always shoot me a message on my Facebook page. You can find me on Vanya Universa Viveris on Facebook. And one of my pages is Studio Incognito, which these paintings will probably be posted there as well, along with the videos. So go out in nature, be inspired. There's so much beauty in the world that we take for granted. Yes, I know sometimes I do. I try my best to remind myself. Okay. Just soften that edge out there before I go. And as I said before, this is not a finished product, but hopefully you kind of learned a little bit about my process of blending and softening edges for the background. It's not always about the detail. Shapes, color, techniques. It's all about the process. So till the next time, have a good one. Ciao.